Finally, Bosse got off his butt. But I still don't know what's going on. I still don't have a read on Bosse. I will point out, Bosse got up at everybody's lowest. Everybody was gone. Everybody was down. Everybody was bleeding out. So, an indication that possibly Bosse is at least looking out for the good of his people. Obviously, again, he technically healed them, so it's another big sign there. But I'm curious at this point just how much Bosse getting up is a reflection of what is internally turmoiling Mirajo, if that's the right word. It seems like at the point in which Mirajo was at her most conflicted, he finally gets up. And again, the point in which everybody is down. So, I don't know. I still don't know Bosse. I don't quite get him at this point. But either way, I like the fact that I was really wanting this scene with Mirajo and the queen and her mother. And thankfully, right at the opening of the episode, we get it. So it's like this. We needed this. It skipped it. And now we're getting it right off the bat. But interesting little scene. Really kind of both the queen looking down on Mirajo and kind of really taking pity in her. She says, I'm not mad at you, but at the same time, after learning about you, because she learned about Mirajo through her mother, I realized at this point to hate the sin, not the sinner. And so it does have an aspect of not forgiveness, but really not hating her for what she did. But at the same time, again, still really hitting heavy on this idea of, why are you even doing this? It's really pathetic what you're doing because you're destroying everybody around you for this path that nobody will support you in. And again, it goes back to Mirajo. I just want Bosse. That's all I want. All I want is to be with Bosse. And again, really hitting on this idea that she was willing to burn down everything in order to get that. Which, through our seeing of her history, it makes sense in the idea that everybody betrayed her. Everybody was terrible. These terrible people that took her mother. She only had Bosse, the one that basically saved her life. So she doesn't care if she burns down everything around her, as long as she's with Bosse. It was sad that we didn't really get much from Mirajo's mother in this whole conversation. Mirajo's mother's really just kind of saying, why are you doing this? Why are you hurting people? And again, completely contrary, or at least opposite to what her mother was. Her mother was like the most giving person. And again, I kind of expected this point for Mirajo to point out, look where it got you. You helped everybody around you, and look where it got you. I don't want that path. It really does feel, again, that it's pushing this idea that Mirajo, unfortunately, is learning from her mother's mistakes, which her mother's mistake was to trust everybody to the point where she basically died. It was, got so teared up. The episode really did just kind of open up with like, okay, Andrew, welcome back to Ranking the Kings. Do you want to start crying again? All right, well, here's Desper basically telling Bojji, oh, is that your mother? She looks really strong. And Bojji starts crying. I'm like, don't, stop. Oh, it was a rough scene. It was a very rough scene. It was very brief. It didn't really kind of stick on it for very long, but it was enough to really get me. But yeah, before we get back to everything else, we did get a brief, we actually had two scenes, one at this point and one just slightly back into the current time, where we do get an idea of, again, that involvement that Mirajo has with this demon. The first shot is to really show that point in which Mirajo is dying. I believe it was the queen mentions to Mirajo, you can't come over here, can you? You're not allowed to die, or at least you can't cross over, which indicates that not that she can't die, it's just that, and then we see in the scene, that point in which she killed the queen, or got the queen killed, you can't really say that she directly, and she fell to her death because she got betrayed, the demon came before her and she said, I can't die yet. I can't die. And the demon said, when you actually die, I shall devour your soul. This is the second time you have betrayed me. He then at that point put her into the mirror. So this indicates that, okay, well, I'll let you live longer, but the moment you finally die, I'm going to consume your soul, which indicates that she will never cross over that river, because the moment that she does die, this demon's going to consume her soul rather than let the soul pass on. But I think the interesting side note there is the mention of, this is the second time you've betrayed me, which I'm hoping we eventually get into. Again, I kind of assume this is something that's going to probably be later. It could get into it with maybe this final episodes. Maybe that Mirajo might be the final, I guess, bow to put on the end of the season, and that might be getting into her ties the demon. Unfortunately for us, the OP kind of indicates something, and we kind of seen a little bit in this episode, this child demon that's crying. I don't know if it's indicating that that crying child is this older demon. Maybe at some point when she was very young. I don't know if it's when she was traveling with Bosse early on, or if possibly it was before Bosse took her away from the basically destroyed village. But at some point when she was very young, she ran into this demon. And it seems like she knew this young demon. This demon's crying. That could be her first betrayal, that she did something against this demon child, and maybe that child is now this big demon. The question is why is this the second time betraying the demon? Did the first time she allow her soul to be with him and to spend time with him, and then she ended up going off with Bosse instead? And now here, she's calling out to this demon again to save her, even though she, again, doesn't want to necessarily interact with this demon, but rather Bosse. That's the big question mark. What is the betrayals? It's so funny how betrayals is a very key point of this entire story. Bosse has obviously betrayed somebody before, Bojji, and then he betrayed somebody again, Daida. The two of them are two peas in a pod. But yeah, with all that said, we jump back to the current time, the current matter, which is we have the big four are now separating body parts of Oaken. He still manages to pull it back together, start taking everybody out. We have this brief moment where Kage is coming back to Bojji, who's unfortunately bleeding out. Desper indicates to him, look, you need to get him to the captain. The captain has a special skill to stop bleeding. And it seems like Oaken realizes that and decides to finish off, or at least attack the now recovered captain once again. And yeah, that's when Bojji jumps out in front of him to stop him, and Bosse finally shows up. Bosse finally shows up. And yeah, starts beating up everybody, kind of gives this indication that he's working for Mirajo, which again, I didn't really believe at this point, because why would he show up when they're all literally bleeding out? He's obviously there for a reason. It wasn't really quite clear early on. It seemed like he was just kind of thwacking people around, but I thought it was going to be one of those moments where I'm going to act like I'm helping Mirajo by attacking everybody so they can leave. But no, it kind of just turns into this whole aspect of gathering them together by beating them up. And then, yeah, I don't remember if I mentioned this in the last impressions, but yeah, it's pretty sure it was going to be Daida was going to be the other person that can heal. And sure enough, using the blood of his mother, or using the blood of his wife through his son, he heals everybody in this big, huge heal. Really like this. It was very brief, but it was cool that he acknowledges healing strength. I recently did my top best girls episode video, and I put healing in that list. Spoilers, if you have not watched that video yet, you should. And the thing that I really pushed on in that video about healing was just how much effort this story really puts, or the writer puts a lot of effort into how much healing has to put herself through in order to heal. It's not heal and everybody's healed. It's literally she puts her every fiber of her body into her healing. And so what Bosse says here through Daida is she's really strong to be able to do that. It took half of his total strength to heal everybody right there. And so he acknowledges how strong healing is. That if it's this hard for him to do it, he's never done it before. He just took over Daida's body and now he's trying this healing thing out. And it took half of his strength out of him. So it's really cool to kind of indicate that. But yeah, after healing him, everybody's excited. Everybody's celebrating. Some goofy little celebrations. Everybody's acknowledging how Bojji's just dancing around like a dork. Obviously, people acknowledging that Bojji's different. He's changed. He now has a purpose. He's now much happier. Now that he's with Kage. He's got a friend. So this is a new side of him that nobody's seen before. And then yes, Bosse versus Oaken wasn't much of a match, because Desper, I guess, speculates that because he's now a giant within a smaller body, it's kind of condensed his strength to the point where he's basically, you can't even touch him. And that's indicated by the fact that the Oaken can't really pierce him at all. And then he just smashes the crap out of him. Tries a couple, it's like he's experimenting. Like, okay, well, this guy's mortal. All right, let's try a couple things. Squish it up. Nope, that didn't work. Okay, well, pull big board. I think he was looking for like a solid mass of rock under the ground. So he pulls out this big mass and busts a hole in it and just crushes Oaken into a ball and shoves it in the hole. Super unsettling. It's literally it's burying him alive. And this was a sad thing because during their fight, Bosse is acknowledging the idea that he's too far gone. This is somebody, He says something like, "Are you ready to take everybody's misery upon yourself?" Don't really know what that means. I guess the idea that he, as an immortal, now realizing the fact that he will never die away and that other people will, that possibly he feels like if he ends people's suffering of the mortal shell, basically, he will help them. That was the point in which he comes to the conclusion that you're beyond help. And that's when he's going to basically lock him away, which again is really unsettling because the idea of the burying him alive. My whole point in this whole situation is it sucks because it still could possibly happen. I was really looking for some sort of way of redeeming Oaken. And I'm going to get into a little bit of this with a video that I'm going to make that I'll probably release later, that I really do think Oaken is possibly more tied in with the overall story than we all think at face value. And I'm curious, based on that, just how, if the writer is planning on doing what I'm thinking, I don't think this is it for Oaken, obviously. I really do think that there's a possibility of redeeming him, and I've always kind of wanted some aspect of redeeming him because he is the product of a tragedy. He is the product of something that was beyond his own control. He had good intentions, and it seems like he's being punished for it, and I don't think the writer is that malicious. I think the writer really likes to have a point of triumph, even if it's not to say that it's always got to be a good thing in the end, everybody has to be happy in the end, but I think there's got to be a moment of triumph for Oaken, and Oaken's never had that moment of triumph. And so I'm hoping this isn't it for him, but it's kind of hinting at this idea that, well, he just basically shoved him inside of a rock so he can never really reform. He's got to build his mass to create himself again, and he can't really do that when he's shoved inside of solid mass. But yeah, hearing those crazy cries coming out of him, it was super unsettling, and I think it was more unsettling because I want a redemption for Oaken. I want it so bad. But yeah, that's when it wraps up the episode with pretty much indicating that this is Bojji versus Bosse coming up, and that end of the episode was real harsh. I'm like, no, I want this now. Or if we will get it. I'm assuming we will. I don't have a doubt that the next episode will be Bosse versus Bojji. Just it's curious at this point what it's about. What Kage told Bojji during the fight between Bosse and Oaken is that, well, if Oaken loses, we win, but you have to take on your father. And now after seeing what Bosse did, Kage's like, no, never mind. Sorry, I was lying. But Bojji's pumped. Bojji likes that. But that was the same thing with Daida. When he seen Daida fighting Domas, he was pumped. He's like, ooh, I want to fight him. I want to fight him. He likes that aspect of that competition, it seems like. He has a little bit of a side of him that likes that competition. And now seeing Bosse fight, he wants to fight his father. He wants that challenge. And how is that going to turn out? It's a big question mark. But yeah, again, like I said at the very beginning, Bosse's showing up seemed like it had something to do with Mirajo's inner conflict. And I think it was like about that point we had Mirajo in her own mind talking about the fact that she had stopped feeling at some point. And after breaking the promise with this demon, she talks about the aspect of Bosse was getting stronger at the cost of others, and she herself started using others to get what she wanted. But then she says, but then that sensation came back to me. And I think it's indicating that it's now. The fact that she's seeing all these people rising up and fighting back, and good people, she can't really argue with it. She's having a struggle now. And again, I think Bosse is reacting to that. So I'll be interested to see if it turns into a thing where we'll have a fun match between Bojji and Bosse. I'm curious if Bosse will allow himself to fall so that Bojji wins and then is able to stop Mirajo. I'll be curious at that point, because it's every indication at this point has been this idea that Mirajo and Bosse both acknowledge that these are good people. That back here in the past they were betrayed, but now they have good people around them. And there's no point that they have to destroy what they have. They can still interact with each other. They may not be able to go on adventures together, but they at some point have to acknowledge that they're fine where they're at. They don't have to go out into the world. And I think that's going to be like unless they decide in the end it has to be to take down Mirajo, what I think is going to probably happen, my prediction, is that they're going to obviously fail Mirajo and Bosse, but it's going to be one of those things where Mirajo ends up being taken by the demon. The demon finally gets what it wants and takes Mirajo's soul, and that's probably going to lead to them going after the demon, and that'll probably, again, be next season, if it ever happens. So yeah, we have 3 episodes left. Oof. I hope you guys will join me for those impressions. If you like this video, definitely hit that like button down below. Subscribe if you haven't already. Share this video if you can. Support us on Patreon. I'll throw a tips link in the description below, or join our Discord down there in the link. We'd love to hear from you guys, and y'all take care.